What is going on? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk to you about Lucid. I want to go over some expectations for this upcoming week, what might cause some volatility in the stock price, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So starting off with macro data, we do have a couple big things coming out this week that could change the market's perception of a January cut. So starting off on Monday, we have pending home sales, and based on what Powell recently stated about kind of the real estate and labor, that one will be a big one for the broader market to kind of watch for. Aside from that, there really hasn't been that much in kind of speculative things coming out over the weekend. So I think in reality, it is going to be more of a reflection / technical day. So in Lucid's case, not the greatest, so I'll go over that near the end of the video. Aside from that though, on Tuesday, we do have a couple big ones. So we have Chicago PMI, FOMC minutes. So in the past, like 2024, the market didn't really care so much about the minutes, but the last two kind of issuances of it, the market really picks it all apart. And more specifically, kind of the member allocation, if that kind of makes sense, because we want to see everyone for the most part in favor of multiple cuts. We don't want to see kind of like all over the place, some wanting hikes, some wanting to stay stagnant. So we want more kind of just a likelihood of a January cut. So if the minutes do signal more of a January cut or a stronger likelihood of that, then the market might be starting to become a little bit more optimistic, because right now there is only a 17.7% likelihood of a 25 basis point cut. So this is a very big deal for a lot of growth stocks and even Lucid. So let me know your general thoughts on that. Aside from that though, on Wednesday we do have initial jobless claims, so not really much other than that one. Thursday the market is closed because of New Year's, so pretty much a copy and paste from last week. On Friday we do have S&P Global Manufacturing. Current forecast is 51.8. Anything above 50 shows more of a expansion, anything below 50 shows more of a contraction. So we do have, even though it is a shorter week, we have a lot of big data that could really kind of move the market. And most likely though, on Friday, we should be seeing somewhat lower volume, similar to kind of last week. So a lot of institutions will just take the second off. So something just to keep in mind. One thing to also be aware of is this is the last trading week in 2025. So a lot of institutions will be rebalancing, and given Lucid's kind of crappy Q4 and overall 2025, any institutions holding a fixed percentage for Lucid will be kind of forced to buy it. So again, that might be a positive thing. So don't be surprised if we see some abnormal transactions, whether that be on the secondary market or the dark pool. Specific to Lucid, this is what they have planned. So they are still in Austin, Texas up until January the 11th. Looks like from the 26th to the 28th. So today they are in good old Miami and also Houston. It would have been good for them to put out some news exactly what this holiday roadshow is all about and why and how that does differ from their pop-up tours. But again, what do I know? Transparency, right? As I've kind of signaled. But nonetheless, they are doing this holiday roadshow. And again, that's only up until the 8th. So this upcoming week, they're only going to be in Austin for the most part. One big thing did come out, and that was a new flyover. And so ultimately, it looks like they have roughly, I think it was like 27 car haulers. So they're really trying to get it out. And that obviously shows that Lucid is self-aware, right? Because Q4, every single Q4, they've always somehow mustered up the strength just to produce a ton of vehicles, but their delivery side has always lagged. So this time it looks like they're really wanting to get that nice last minute push, and that way it kind of looks a little bit better on kind of the sheet when they do actually disclose it. So it looks like the 27 car haulers will bring about 200 vehicles. You did have this individual saying that the lot doesn't really look that different from December the 1st. So I don't know, let me know your kind of general thoughts on that. It would be a little bit more advantageous for those of you that are OGs in Lucid. Bear's Workshop used to do, I think, was it 3 flyovers a week? That was on point. And I think right now that's kind of what we generally need with Lucid, that level of frequency, only because then we can actually see if Lucid is like truly producing 1,000 vehicles a week, because if you think about it, that would mean that they need like hundreds of car haulers every single week. So I don't know, let me know your general thoughts on that. Obviously we only have a couple days left in Q4, so it's pretty much out of our hands, although technically it doesn't really matter what you and I think, because we have no influence on this whatsoever. So yeah, we'll just have to sit tight, wait on how the numbers actually do turn out. As I've signaled, if for whatever reason they miss on their target, anticipate Lucid to have quite a significant drop. If they hit their target, which I think there's a lot of signals that they did, then most likely the market could really push it higher. But still, when it comes down to their upcoming earnings, it's going to be a lot more complex whether they just hit their targets or not. It's also what they are going to give for 2026, because again, if they do 18,000 in 2025 but raise it to 20,000 in 2026, market's going to say F you. Like, it has to be a significant jump up, and the market again is going to think, why do you have two very like high sophisticated like facilities that can produce a ton of vehicles if you can't even do that? So that's going to be, again, another topic, another hot one to watch for. So I'll kind of go into that a little bit more once we get closer to their earnings. Aside from all of that, though, looking at shorts. So going into this upcoming week, 33.84% of the free float's being shorted. Works to be 44.09 million shares overall being shorted. Cost to borrow average 18.47. So kind of stagnant, hasn't really moved too much. It kind of fluctuates between that and like 22%, but nothing too significant. DTC sitting at 5.28 days. As I've mentioned in previous videos, the reason why it is going up isn't really because shorts are doubling or tripling down. Rather, the average volume for Lucid is actually going lower. So DTC does factor in the average volume in comparison to number of shares being shorted. So all of this right here is just ratios and percentages. So yeah, that's kind of what is happening there. So let me know your viewpoint on shorts, and if you think that they're going to double down or not. They have been, for the most part, holding on for dear life, but we are very, very close to all-time high short interest numbers. So let me know if you think that's kind of a thing. I don't know. They've been in Lucid for so long, like it'd be weird to actually see ever this at like the 10% range. It's just, I don't know, kind of get used to just shorts nowadays, I guess. But when it comes down to options from a bull standpoint, you see a consensus for it to be roughly around that $12 range, above 12 by the end of Friday. Bears are anticipating for it to be sub 1150. So clearly both individuals, bulls and bears, aren't really anticipating that much movement. Maybe again because it is a shorter week, and other than the FOMC minutes and the manufacturing data, there's not too much that could really move it. So just maybe be aware of that. So for those of you that are into selling calls or selling puts, this week might be a good one, because again, bulls and bears are kind of anticipating for it to be stagnant. Right now with it at 1141, it is trading between this pivot and this S1. So 1124, 1084, and then 1018 is going to be support levels. So for those of you that want to kind of dollar cost average swing trade, just kind of watch for a lot of those. And then 1190 followed by 1255 is going to be the next strong target / resistance point. Over the last 5 days, Lucid did go down 6.79%. So it is losing a lot of momentum, and a lot of that has to do with just institutions not buying. So even on Friday, only had one buy, the rest were sells. And they were pretty significant, mind you. So 4.5, 1.6, 1.2, and then a couple others. So institutions aren't getting that warm, fuzzy feeling clearly from Lucid. Aside from all of that, though, on the actual chart, like I said, I think Monday is going to be more of a reflection day and linked to technicals. And Lucid's technicals don't look great, despite what people are saying. This is not a good looking chart. It is below all the key pivotal moving averages, so below the 10, 50, 100, and 200. Generally, that's what people kind of look at. And so right now, it's not looking too good, unfortunately. But aside from that, though, you also have the stochastic RSI because of that recent bump up right here. Now it is neutral, so it's not really overbought nor oversold. Looking at the market position, you don't see that much willing buyers. So I think, as I've mentioned, everyone and their dog is just waiting for Lucid just to say, hey, I hit our 2025 target. We did 18.5, for instance, or 19 or whatever. That in reality might incentivize some buying. Up until their announcement, I think just Lucid's at the mercy of the broader market. A lot of this up and down motion is just algorithmic trading moving Lucid. And you can even see from the flow on Friday that a lot of the smaller transactions. So it is algorithmic trading, kind of the largest force that has been moving Lucid. So hopefully they do hit their marks and then Lucid can really move higher. This upcoming week, I do kind of tend to agree with the options that things will be somewhat stagnant. But kind of going back over here, I do anticipate a lot, kind of both spectrums to be kind of hit. So I do anticipate this 1124 to be hit at one point, same with this 1190 and possibly even this 1255. But by the end of the week, I do feel that we will be settling back between this pivot and this S1. So the market, like I said, is just going to wait for the next big catalyst, and that's their obviously numbers. So let me know your thoughts on Lucid. Have you been buying? Have you been selling? What's your kind of general thoughts on everything that has been happening? One final thing, pop over to my Patreon if you're looking for some solid on-point buy signals on stocks, options, crypto. Put out daily day trades, numerous swing trades. Definitely worthwhile to pop over there and check that out. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.